county tax dollars. I just got to ask you. I mean, how does that, her just flipping the bird to you, strike you?
It doesn't feel good to me, and I'm sure it doesn't feel good to the taxpayers I represent. I mean, meritocracy is what should be the measure of success in this world. Your ability and your experience should qualify you for a position in a school or at a job or a company. And without that, we're going to have inefficiencies in those areas. So it's super important that we have qualified individuals operating in government that are chosen based on their merit and their quality of results.
Well, I can tell you who agrees with you. Two people. Truman the Tiger agrees with you. They got rid of DEI. And I'll tell you this: after Truman said no DEI, no DEI, no, 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 we're not doing DEI. Um, After that happened, Mike Kehoe put out a statement and said, "I'm thankful that President Choi and the University of Missouri decided to heed my call and eliminate this unnecessary division. The premise of DEI undermines individual responsibility, and these types of programs work against the university's efforts to prepare students to succeed in the workforce." I couldn't have said it better myself. So I guess the question is, how much rot does there have to be at the Department of Insurance for them to read that and then go to this conference?
To ignore it, yeah.
Just say, well, piss off, Mike Kehoe. We don't give a damn what you think. I mean, look, I'm a pretty salty cat, but I wouldn't just flip Mike Kehoe off straight to his face. I mean, he'd probably whoop my ass if you want the truth.
We need to remove bad actors from government, reduce
That's
spending.
what needs to happen,
That's
right?
right.
I mean, is there any other way around it? Can you imagine? I mean, I understand she doesn't show up to work very often, but even if you showed up, let's just say you came to Missouri once a month, right? I think you would get the point that the elected representatives of this state aren't interested in doing DEI, right? How did you not get that memo?
It's not possible.
Is
to
it
have
just
not
that you're
gotten
just
them.
not in the state of Missouri enough? It could be. Or is it just that, Eric Greitens didn't give a damn who he brought to this state? He didn't care.
Or maybe he didn't vet them properly, or
Maybe both.
maybe they misrepresented themselves. But once it's been clearly understood by the taxpayers,
Clearly.
action should be taken.
Let's talk about it. Speaking of actions, the House put together a committee.
Yep.
You hear it, you see it everywhere in society now, whether it's people streaming through the border. Well, we don't have a borders. People streaming through some imaginary line that no one seems to give a damn about. If it's crimes folks are committing, if it's burdens those folks are putting on taxpayers, there's been a lot of talk. You guys have a committee now formed in the House, right? Tell me about it.
So the Illegal Immigration and Crime Committee was formed to be an interim committee to take a look at the allegations of illegal immigrants committing crimes, and also to take a look at how illegal immigrants become victims of crimes. And to be completely honest, local law enforcement hasn't really projected that there is a large population of immigrants committing crimes. But what we have realized is that there are a large group of immigrants becoming victims of crimes, whether it be wage and hour theft, or if it's human smuggling or trafficking. And human trafficking works in regard to the labor issue as well.
Talk about that. When I think of human trafficking, when you tell me that, I initially think, oh, this is mostly about, basically trapping a young woman into being a sex worker is kind of what I jump to. But it's not, while that's maybe the most egregious type, that's not the only type, right?
No, wage and hour theft is a real issue. It's affecting the immigrant population. We have learned a lot about it, what's going on. Roughly or approximately 20 million illegal immigrants in this country. Only 750,000 have been granted work permits. That means that there's a large percentage, 90%, that are not working legally. And so it's in those situations that those people become victims of wage and hour theft by not being paid overtime, being paid less than minimum wage, or depending on how they got to this country, they might owe a debt to the cartels and become indentured servants as they work to repay that debt to the cartels for the cartels' help in getting them to America. So it's a real issue. It's going to be an issue for the unions. It's going to be an issue for the building trades. It's going to be an issue for just about anybody who wants a shot at the American dream. Time is the most valuable resource of all, and it's time that's wasted for the illegal immigrants who haven't been granted a work permit through the asylum system. That's time that they can't have to finance a car, to build a credit score, to open a bank account. To get a real shot at the American dream means you need to be a participant in the economy, which means paying taxes, having a bank account, developing a credit score. So their time is wasted while they're in the status of the illegal group of people.
To me, I don't know what you do at the federal level, but folks that want to work, and a lot of illegal immigrants work harder than a lot of us, frankly.
I employ 25 myself. They're H-2B workers. We are actually providing them a pathway to citizenship. So each year we're going to sponsor 6 of those H-2B visa workers for citizenship in America. So
To me, I think it sometimes as Republicans it comes off like you just don't want Mexicans coming to America. I mean, to me, if you're willing to work, I think this country needs you. But
absolutely.
there's got to be a smart way to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
just saying every time there's a Democrat president, we're not going to have a border is not that's not a policy,
No.
and it's not fair to those people. I mean, imagine. I mean, it's hot out there today. It's going to be 90 degrees in the sun on top of a roof with felt paper down. It's probably going to be what 100, 105.
Yeah.
Then look, our humidity ain't easy. Working up there is hard. You should be compensated for that. That labor has a value. And I always felt, Jay Nixon told me once, your fellow Jeff County, he said, when the Democrat Party talks about work, we win. When we talk about giving away free stuff, we lose. And I think the Republican Party, if you're going to honor work, I mean, to me, that's why I'm a Republican, is it's the party of working and achieving, and that's calls to me, right?
Blood, sweat, tears, and sacrifice, and tripping and falling to find out what you need to do differently and applying that logic moving forward.
And if you have brown skin, I think it should be the same way. I mean, I don't think that's just a white person thing, but I do think we owe it to our kids to have some kind of understanding of what's happening here.
Completely. And we owe it to them to protect them and the taxpayers of any potential bad actors that could come through the border unrealized.
What a great, I love Jim Murphy is a solutions guy. He's just this lovable Irishman, but he takes public policy seriously. I liked it when he came out and said, what I'd like to do is, number one, penalize folks hiring illegals when they know it. And a lot of them, let's be honest, especially in the construction world, know it. But he goes, let's find a way to give them permits here to work in Missouri. If you're willing to work, man, I say come to the show me state.
Yep.
But let's figure out a way to do it where you have some idea of the folks coming here to work.
There's a lot of ways to do it already. They've been in place for decades. The H-2B program does definitely need to be expanded upon with the new demand here in this United States.
Who's leading the committee?
Lane Roberts is leading the Illegal Immigration and Crime Committee, and he's an excellent person to do so. He's got honor and integrity for days. He's very fair and understanding and patient, and there's been a lot of people come out. One thing I realized was that when we heard that there weren't a ton of crimes being committed, violent felonies or assaults by illegal immigrants in this state, it wasn't too long after that the Aurora, Colorado situation came up, started circulating in videos through X and Twitter, Facebook and other platforms, but it wasn't being covered by the media. So I called a couple of state reps out in Colorado to get their story. And yeah, it's true. It's obviously happening in Colorado. That situation is a low-income housing facility that was a little derelict. The owner of that facility wasn't maintaining maintenance on it. And the supposed Venezuelan gangs came in armed and started requesting that the current occupants pay them rent instead of the landlord. And if they refuse to do so, the gang would evict them. And so this is also, now we're hearing reports of this happening in Chicago and Texas as well. And what's interesting about politics is that when you've got a red or conservative state and you're not hearing reports of this happening, it's a good thing. But the Democrats will use that against us on the committee and say, see, you're wrong. But when we look at Colorado, we see that this is happening in Colorado, where they've got the exact supermajority opposite of what we've got. They've got a Democrat supermajority. So they're welcoming these people into their communities, and they're allowing Boulder and Denver to declare themselves as sanctuary cities, whereas our urban areas in Missouri would lose some funding, or funding would be withheld if they declared themselves sanctuary cities. However, we do have other things occurring, like the development of the Office of New Americans, However, they are not declaring them St. Louis or Kansas City sanctuary cities, so it's likely that that's protecting our integrity from what's happening in Colorado.
It feels to me like, it would be great for Missouri, not, I don't think being a sanctuary state, but to be, if you get off your ass and work state, we're going to figure out something, right? But again, I don't think you're doing, to come in and allow these gangs to persecute these people. I mean, there's a lot in the roofing business, there's a lot in the drywall business. You're hurting businesses to do it right.
Yeah.
You're not it's not just about the people, because I mean, some folks, they're Republicans, there's some just general folks who would say, hey, the hell with them. Not Americans. We'll worry about Americans first. Well, part of worrying about Americans first is you're hurting other businesses. Why would you in Missouri right now, the Department of Labor, I looked into this a while back. They don't do anything. You can hire every illegal you want. You could know it. The Department of Labor is like, I don't see anything. I can't see what you're talking about. There's no, honestly, it's a real bad law when you incentivize people not to follow it.
Right. And the cost
It's
associated...
almost like if you don't do anything about this,
Yeah.
don't complain next time when it's worse because you did nothing about this.
There's a cost associated with running a legitimate business, and some of the cost is obvious, but some of the other cost is unemployment insurance, workers' compensation, payroll taxes. These are things that cost us more money to operate, and when you have a operation operating illegally without any of those costs to endure, they are able to do the work for a much lower cost than we are, and as a result, we suffer. And as a result, the employee suffers, and that's the example of taking advantage of these folks who aren't well protected.
So let's talk about some other stuff happening in Jim. Actually, let's take one break. If you were going to bring, you've got to approve some rural broadband, right, in the budget. You got to come in at the right time when there was money to be spent. I don't think there's a better rural broadband situation in the entire state than at United Fiber over in the great Northwest, Senator Hagan would say. And if you're bringing your family to town, what hotel are you going to take them to?
Marriott Hotel.
Yeah, you got to take them to the Courtyard by Marriott. Everyone knows. Let's talk about something interesting. These are not for sale at the Courtyard by Marriott, but you could take a baseball and hit my son's school from this gas station. Love the gas station. Great guys. I prefer to stop in there as opposed to the other ones near. But you can buy these. These are Airheads. Mm-hmm. We've all seen them.
They're right by the counter, aren't they?
Orange flavored, yeah. And then a little bit further over on the left was these. They look like Airheads, right?
Yeah.
No difference, except this one has drugs in it. Now, I actually think if you want to smoke pot, or chew pot, whatever, I'm for you. I don't think it's my business to tell you what to do. However, I do think it's a problem when you take a kid's package. I mean, look, adults may eat these, but these are children's candy that you're eating. You take children's candy packaging and you put drugs in it. Then the governor finally came out and said, we got to stop this. This is ridiculous. Poisonings are up 600% in ERs. Then somehow the Secretary of State said, no, let's keep doing this. This is dope. I don't get it. Jay Ashcroft
is dope, isn't it?
It literally is dope. And listen, I think losing an election's tough. I mean, it's grueling. The one thing I do try to always remember is you putting your name on the ballot is a major sacrifice to you, your family, people that care about you, your finances, your children. I respect people that run. And Jay Ashcroft is a good guy. He's an honest guy. I don't, however, since he's lost, there's been a little bit of bizarre behavior here. And one of them was, I just never could have seen myself with Jay Ashcroft saying, okay, let's sell drugs to kids. That's cool. I don't get it.
It reminds me of Halloween when you had to dump your pillowcase full of candy out in front of your parents so that they could check it for drugs. Now they
got to get the magnifying glass out and say, okay, is that pot?
Yeah. And it looks like this warning label here was covered up by a price tag. So I don't think this is good. People who are of the right age and who want to access pot can access pot from any dispensary, from any other vendor that's licensed to sell this stuff. I don't even know how this is ending up in gas stations, and these gas stations aren't being held accountable, or the manufacturer of the product isn't being held accountable. I doubt Airheads has a licensing agreement.
I totally agree with you there. Yes.
The manufacturer. So to make it look like child's candy is egregious, and I think it should be handled and addressed. I think it's only a matter of time before somebody eats a little bit too much or is a little bit too young.
I think that's happened.
Yeah.
And the next time it happens, there's be some people pointing some fingers. And I think I honestly, I'll just be honest with you. We just talk hogs, dogs, and logs here. Although I have a high regard for J.S. Grubb, I do think there's some pettiness here. I think there's some people in the dispensaries, of course, don't like you selling illegal. It makes them look bad. If you're selling the stuff at a gas station, one, I'm sure they'd rather you buy from a dispensary. But also, when kids get sick, people don't know the differences of the dispensary and all this. Most folks, the folks that have bought pot at a dispensary regularly might, but that's a fraction of the population. Most folks just think, oh, that's pot's legal now, and it's the same. They paint them all with the same brush. I do think there's a problem, and I do think I think his thing kind of stems from pettiness. I do think there's a little bit of a petty nature there. I've never seen him reject a rule before, and this rule seems a lot more, or an order. This order seems a lot more common sense than some of the other ones, right?
Well, plus the dispensaries and the licensed manufacturers are able to measure the material in each
Yes.
unit. Who's to say? There's nothing checking the volume of material in that unit. So we definitely would like to make sure that it's not accessible to children.
And the Attorney General has jumped in. He's been in the Merchandising Practices Act. I think he's going to try to do some of that going forward. But it's tough. It's a tough situation. The governor and the AG now have tried to find a way to go around the Secretary of State, at least until a new one gets brought into office. Let's talk about Jeffco. There's some good things happening in Jefferson County right now.
Great things happening. We got a new port developing, and we've got James Hardy Siding is coming in to build a new facility.
Where at?
I think that's over in Herculaneum.
Nice.
Yeah, it should create a lot of jobs and.
Well, there's a lot of Doe Run folks out there that still want to work, right?
Yeah.
And I always thought there was a void there in Herky to be filled by somebody to come in. Good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's development happening in a lot of ways. There was some controversy and some eminent domain issues in Arnold that was put to bed rather quickly. The people had spoke and were out in opposition on the matter. I think.
What's the eminent domain issue?
There is a potential to take people's homes and businesses through the use of eminent domain.
To build a road?
To build a road using a TDD that was already repaid by the development of another property. So they thought, well, let's just continue to use this TDD as a funding mechanism to acquire all of these properties through Shell Corporation. And then to tear them down.
Eminent domain.
Yeah, they wanted eminent domain. They thought that the road would provide opportunity to develop a larger economic impact there. And in fact, it would have taken some opportunity from my part of the woods. So they actually indicated in the article in the Leader that they were losing some revenue from the development of the Gravois Bluffs property at 30 and 141. And so it wasn't for health or safety, it wasn't for public safety or access to properties, it was for economic development. And,
well, those TDDs, I've seen them be very good things. And I've seen them be pretty squirrely, too.
Yep.
I mean, there's a great one at the lake when you're going down towards, the old Tantera, Lodge of the Four Seasons.
Yep.
That first one that comes down where they took all those S-curves out, straightened it all out. I got to think that was a good investment.
That's probably a good example.
You had a road already there, and I'm sure it took some right away from some people, but essentially you just took a curvy road and made it straight.
Right.
And it gave you 3 or 4 lanes. So, on Sunday trying to get out of the lake, it was an hour. Now it's, it's congested, but it's not bad. But we got to keep an eye on those TDDs, though.
I think that's just the way of government, though. Even with tax credits, some tax credits are good, some tax credits don't return the investment to the taxpayer. And I think that they need to be looked at long and hard to determine which ones are good for business and which ones are not.
But it does feel like it's a good time to be. I think ever since COVID, I've seen more and more people want to live. They want to live outside St. Louis County.
Yeah.
And if you want to live outside St. Louis County, you have 3 choices. And Jeffco is one that folks have come down 55 many times. And you're extending. So last time I drove down 55, you're adding more lanes south of St. Louis?
Yeah, according to the governor, we're getting more lanes on 55 south. We're getting
down to the port? Is that where they're going?
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely going to make it to the port. Port's not that far south of St. Louis.
Yeah.
So the port will create opportunity for development there, economic and industrial. It'll
I
create
thought Becky Ruth told me there's another where the current construction stops. They're going to go down another intersection past the 67 intersection because there's an employer coming in down there or expanding.
Yeah, so
They're
James
trying to-
Hardy is.
That's
gonna
where
be-
they're trying to
yeah.
reach. Okay,
so
I
James
gotcha.
Hardy's bringing in large trucks to
Yeah.
merge onto the highway, and they need their own on ramp for that, so that they don't create a liability for themselves or for the county with regard to potential accidents.
That's a damn good reason to put an on-ramp in. That you're adding
Yeah.
jobs. That's awesome.
And it's one thing they aren't paying for, and they can't pay for it because it's a county issue and a state issue. But they're paying for everything else. They're bringing a lot of money into our county, and we're very thankful to have them.
Let's talk about Kelton has his illegal gambling pool. Next week, Kelton, can we have we can play the fight song?
I'll try my best.
Well, since we're doing illegal gambling anyway, I think we could illegally procure the. Well, I guess the fight song would be public use, though, right? This is the college.
It's public use, yeah.
We'll text Troy. I don't think he'll care. All right, so let's. Kelton is the ultimate homer. It could be Mizzou at Alabama and Mizzou getting 40 points. He'd be like, "Oh, Mizzou, I'll give the points, no problem." And I'm always like, Kelton, you're such a homer. It makes it no. But when we started this, I thought I would be the homer and Kelton would be like the negative person, and I would look good. But coming out of the gate, because we kind of had that, we talked about that. He immediately just went hard for Mizzou on a game they lost. They should not in the line. He's just such a homer.
He's a low.
But in gambling, you have to gamble with your wallet, not your heart. So Truman is getting 16.5 with Boston College.
They actually bumped it up to 17 now.
Jeez. 17 even?
17 even.
Okay, so Truman is giving 17 to ranked Boston College, but it's at Faroe. I was going to go, but I get to go to a wedding this weekend. So I'll miss out. Sorry. Talk to Casey, dude. Don't look at me like that. I don't. Do you think I plan these things? So what are you picking? You take a Mizzou and give him the points?
Yeah, I don't know much about college sports,
Me neither.
so I would have to give it to Mizzou.
So I'm gonna pick Mizzou to win, but not to cover. And I'm gonna make fun of my homer buddy over here, or he's gonna make fun of me. Depending. That's why we like to watch the games. The Chiefs. What's the line on the Chiefs this weekend, Kelton?
I had it written down, but I don't have it in front of me.
Well,
Chiefs to win.
I mean, let's be honest. You're not exactly the Tony Soprano of this operation, Kelton. I mean, I think he would know the line on the team. I think Chiefs to win too. Mark Alford predicted 15-2 when he was on here.
Really?
15-2 seems stout, right? Because if you have such a good season, the last game or two you're going to play your backups because what do you care? You have it clinched. I think at 15-2 over under. I'm taking the under on 15-2.
I have no idea.
Alford's too optimistic. Kelton, obviously being a homer, would probably take the over on 15-2, right?
I'm not a huge Chiefs guy.
Well, I'm taking the over then. I'll be the good guy for once. Damn. David Castillo, thank you so much. I know you have veto session to get to. It is very nice to talk to a rising star in the caucus that is a pragmatic businessman. It is
Thank
a
you.
pleasure to follow your career. Thank you so much. I have a Stein, folks. I didn't want to unveil it. Well, I didn't want to embarrass him. He gave me what might be my favorite Stein I've ever got in ever period. And I'm gonna unveil it next week. Kelton, we gonna do this on Tuesday of next week?
I got time.
Okay. So I didn't want to break it out while you were on here, but I'm gonna show you guys some Steins over the next few weeks. Thank you so much
problem.
for these Stein. I felt awkward breaking it out here while you were here, but next week on Tuesday, I'm going to unveil to you what is my favorite Stein I've ever gotten, and this is my 462nd Stein of this collection. This is my favorite Stein, and it's not even close. So Tuesday, you want to say 11, Kelton?
Let's do it.
Sometime Tuesday midday, I'm going to unveil to you my favorite Stein I've ever received. It is one of the best gifts I've ever gotten in my life, and it's thanks to you, Representative. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Enjoy your friendship. Enjoy following your career. He's going to go to veto session. We're going to walk over ourselves, and we will see you Sunday with his senator, Mary Elizabeth Coleman, on This Week in Missouri Politics.